So you asked,
Testing, hello, 1, 2.
but we don't have to do a closing statement. I mean, if that's gonna.
Let's just not do a closing statement.
Okay, we usually won't, but should we flip a coin for the opening statement then, so it's fair? So you're fine with that?
That's fine.
Are you fine with that? No, should we flip a
Let's flip
coin?
a coin.
Okay, does anybody have a coin in their pocket? We didn't say they went first. We did? Oh, I don't know.
Well, the script has it first. Yeah, the
Oh, do
script
they?
has it first. And so it probably is good to stick with the
Oh,
script.
that's fine.
And the script
Oh.
didn't have a closing statement.
So we'll just get rid of the closing
Yeah,
statement.
so we
That's
won't
fine.
shift
Well,
it.
the closing statement could be,
Well, we're not gonna do closing
I know,
statements,
but
yeah.
we can tell what the last question is.
Will you start with Devin, the first question?
Oh, try. No, just stay at your seat. Yeah. For opening. No, for opening statements, you'll just stay at the table. The microphone's right there.
Okay.
So this is the microphone that will pick up all of you, Mark. This is the microphone we were talking about. It will pick you up. Is that okay?
That's great. So they wanted to go last for a closing statement. We did away with the closing statement. Better. They wanted to go first and last. This debate. That's not even close to three. The way this is set up, you've got audience won't be able to see.
So Neil suggested we just start with you. So you'll have the first question after the opening statement. Is that okay? And then we'll just go down the line and then circle back to you.
Why is this appropriate?
What's the matter?
We've got half our group here that can't see this table.
Who can't see the table? We just set it up for TV. You want us to move these guys back?
Where's the TV? Up there.
I mean, we can ask everybody in the audience to go this way. I'll do that. Do you want me to? Are you sure?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay. Honestly,
hello?
I really am
So I
trying to make
called
it.
in.
Really.
I haven't heard them say anything yet. But
You have to check. Everybody, please.
got it.
Good.
I'm good, yeah.
I just have to turn this on at some point. Or will they turn it on? Yep, flip it on.
They've got full visibility from the
Do they need to turn mics on? They're loud, or?
But like we said, it's not going to.
Should be fine.
Or something.
I suppose we're okay with just one script out here then, huh? Do you have notes on yours, or is this something else?
We have the same notes, so whatever you prefer. We can, whatever you want to do. And this will be our timer.
A community college in Idaho Falls. Some are for it, others are against it. Should the Eastern Idaho Technical College become a community college? The debate starts now.
Welcome everyone to the Community College Debate. I'm Dave, along with Calla Curtis with KID News Radio. And we're coming to you live from the Colonial Theater in downtown Idaho Falls.
So the residents of Bonneville County will go to the polls on May 16th to vote on whether the county should create a taxing district that would turn Eastern Idaho Technical College into a community college. Tonight we'll look at the pros and the cons and what it would mean for the students and the taxpayers of Bonneville County.
And we're broadcasting this event live on Local News 8 Now channel 8.4, as well as on KID News Radio and also Cable 1 channel 30. And there will be no commercial breaks or any intermission in tonight's debate. For those of you in our audience, please silence your cell phones, no flash photography, please. And just so you're aware, since this is a televised event, there is a possibility that any of you out there could be seen on TV.
So we have a panel on both sides of the issue who will be answering questions from our media panel tonight. They'll also be answering questions from you, our audience. So first, let's introduce our media panel. Members of the media asking questions: KID News Radio's Neil Larson, Local News 8's Carol Honus, KIDK Eyewitness News 3's Todd Kuntz, and Devin Bodkin from Idaho Education News. Thank you for being here tonight.
And now let's introduce our debaters from the pro side. We have over here Park Price, who is the chairman of the Community College Study Panel that issues the report on the costs and benefits of converting iTech to a comprehensive community college for Eastern Idaho. He's currently serving as the chair of READY, that's the Regional Economic Development Organization for Eastern Idaho, and he's been appointed to the Governor's Task Force on Higher Education. Senator Dean Mortimer is in his 6th term on the Idaho Legislature, and he's chair of the Senate Education Committee. He's a local businessman in the Idaho Falls area. He's a Republican who also serves on the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee that oversees state spending. And we have Mario Hernandez. He's a successful local businessman. He owns T-Town Auto Group with locations in Idaho Falls and Pocatello. He has been a supporter involved with Eastern Idaho Technical College for over 10 years now.
And on the con side, we have Larry Lyon. Larry brings the perspective of a non-traditional student to the panel. He also has experience in government budgeting from his time on the Idaho Falls City Council. He's been both a precinct committee man and an assistant precinct committee man in the Bonneville County Republican Party. Representative Tom Lurcher represents portions of Bear Lake, Caribou, Franklin, Oneida, Teton, and Bonneville counties in the Idaho Legislature. He's chairman of the House State Affairs Committee, and he has served 15 terms in the Idaho House. He's a former Bonneville County Commissioner and a rancher in Bonneville County. And Mark Fuller is an attorney and chairman of the Bonneville County Republican Central Committee. He serves on the board of directors for the Idaho Falls Humanitarian Center.
Now let's explain the rules of tonight's debate. Each side will have an opening statement, and that can be no longer than 3 minutes. And once the opening statements have concluded, the media panel will start rotating and asking the questions. The side being asked the question will have 2 minutes to answer that question, and then the opposing side will have 2 minutes to respond. That can be followed by 5 minutes of open debate and discussion if needed, but we'll try to keep that to under 5 minutes. And then the panel will move on to the next question. Now, Calla and I will be the timekeepers.
And I'll explain this part. We actually have Sydney Jensen. She's on the front row. She has a white piece of paper. Just for the folks on the panels, when they have 30 seconds left, she will hold up the white paper for a couple of seconds just to give them an indication to wrap things up. When time is actually expired, Jay or I will ring the bell. That's, of course, means time is over. If they keep talking, then Jay or I will have to, nudge them with a few more bell rings, but hopefully we won't get to that.
And we'll do our best Chris Wallace imitation if it gets beyond that. So.
Yes. Questions, of course, can also come from those in the audience, whether you're watching at home, listening on the radio, or if you're here in the Colonial with us tonight. You can text your questions to our panel. You text the word debate and your question to the short code 67664. Neil Larson has his laptop. He'll receive those questions, and he will ask questions that come directly from you.
All right, so let's start with the opening statements from each side. These statements should be no longer than 3 minutes, and let's start with the pro side.
Hi everyone, I'm Mario Hernandez. I think I could get everyone on this stage to agree on the importance of education for our students, our community, our state, and our economy. In fact, that's what this debate is all about. Many people have been working on this issue for 3 years and longer, doing research and analysis, seeking information on viable options for Eastern Idaho. Many financially conservative people like myself take the issue seriously. We are forward-looking for positive growth around and in Bonneville County. So why community college? Why now? We're already behind. On one side of this issue you're going to hear tonight is a positive, forward-looking message with the facts behind it. On the other side, you're going to hear a negative, anti-growth message. On one side, you're going to hear 3 years of research coming forward with a lot of hours of work in behind it. On the other side, you're going to hear fear tactics. On one side, you've got people with information who are vested in what's going on currently and what we want to go on in the future. On the other side, you're going to hear anti, anti, anti. One side's physically conservative and respects Bonneville County taxpayers. That's us. We respect you. One side understands the real value of a 60-acre campus with buildings. One side is thankful and appreciative of the $5 million set aside by the state legislature for the community college. The other side says bury your head. One side says offer affordable education right here in Idaho Falls and Bonneville County. The other side says continue to send our students elsewhere. One side said let's build the needs we have for more nurses, welders, machinists, automotive technicians, and other technical type of education here. The other side says leave these jobs unfilled or hire out of the area. One side has a long list of public supporters published on its website. The other side has not listed anyone. Vote yes for your community college on May 16th. Vote early up till May 12th. I'm looking forward to a lively debate.
Thank you. And the con side, opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Mark Fuller. I'm speaking on behalf of those who oppose the Taxing District Initiative. I know this is an important issue for our community and for our entire county. Many people have spent many hours in preparation, in politicking, and in studying this issue. I think one thing we can all agree to is that this really isn't about those of us who are here in this room. I suspect almost everybody here has already made up their mind. If I ask you to raise your hand, I suspect you would. Most of us are here not to learn facts, but to get validated. We want to come and listen to the side that's going to say the things we already agreed to, which is why tonight really isn't about those who are here. Tonight is about those who couldn't come tonight because they're raising their children, because they're driving their truck as part of their work responsibilities, the grandpa who's out in the field so he can feed his family. Those are the ones who are searching for facts, who will be listening to this over the next week, both as a radio and as a TV broadcast, and are listening tonight. And those are the ones that I'm going to address. And I'm going to ask those of you who are listening, as well as those of you who are here tonight, just for an hour to set aside your preconceptions. Don't just listen to your side. Listen to both and listen for facts. Don't be fooled just by emotional presentations. When you hear the word I believe, or the word I feel, or the word I wish, or I think, those aren't facts. Those are just emotion. The issues that need to be addressed tonight are the facts that will make a difference in whether or not we want a taxing district to impose a tax forever. Taxing districts don't end. The facts are that this taxing district, if it's organized, will have 5 trustees appointed by the State Department of Education, not elected by us, and at least a year they will get to run this community college taxing district. They will have the ability to impose a operations tax of $7.5 million. They will also have the ability to impose a gymnasium and ground maintenance tax of another $600,000. And when they come to recognize that there aren't enough students participating in just freshman and sophomore year, they will then have the ability to increase the school for 2 more years at another $1,200,000. The total amount involved in this decision is a taxing district with $9,300,000. I ask you to listen not to emotion, but to facts, and then I invite you to vote no. We do not need this taxing district.
Thank you. We're now going to send this over to our media panel. Devin Bodkin of Idaho Education News will ask the first question. He's welcome to ask it to either side.
Thank you, Callie. My first question is for the individuals at the pro table over here. I'd like to start by jumping into some numbers that have been thrown around so far, some estimates tied to this initiative. The estimated $13.37 per $100,000 of taxable property value tied to a community college has emerged as a focal point in this overall debate. Proponents say it's a meager payoff for the benefits wrought by a community college, but those opposed cite a future trustee's power to raise the local tax rate portion of the community college's budget by 3% annually without a required vote coming in. How can you allay the concerns of those who might like to see a community college in Bonneville County, but who don't like the idea of perpetual increases in their property taxes?
Yeah, let me start on that, Devin. Park Price. I chaired the study panel, and we looked at great detail on the budget, preparation of the budget. So we developed, based on the actual costs at ITech, what we thought was the likely cost of the first 6 years of operation of the full-service community college in Eastern Idaho. We looked at all of the revenue and expense sources, again, based on what we know out at the community college, or at the technical college. And the amount that's necessary from the taxpayers, we felt, determined was $863,000, $62,000. And when we looked at the average Bonneville County residents and applied the homeowner's exemption to that, and applied the rate of $15 per 100,000 mill levy, that came to that $13.71. In looking at the costs going out for 6 years, that number stayed flat. That did not increase. And we don't see a reason to do that, because you're going to have an increasing number of students that are going to pay the tuition that is one of the major costs or sources of revenue to fund the community college. So we feel very confident that this number that we have is conservative, it's realistic, and we stand by the mill levy rate we determined.
And what about the 3% annual increase that is subject to trustees?
You could do that. It would take you forever. If you started like 3% of 1371, it'd be minuscule even if you did it. But we don't see the need to do that. We think the growth of the student body will more than compensate for the additional costs here.
Can you clarify minuscule?
40 cents.
40 cents, yeah. 3% of
37.
37 would be about 40 cents a year. So 40 cents a year for 4 or 5 years still is nothing.
Devin, let's take that same question to the con side if they would like to respond to that.
Cal, I'll respond to that. This is Tom Lurcher. The problem with this $13.37 is based on the assumptions that you use in arriving at it. And being somewhat of a numbers guy, not necessarily from a budget standpoint in the legislature, but in my own life, knowing the way things go and having been involved in government for quite some time, you always have to look to the future to see what you're going to need to raise. And you cannot make it on $13.37. I would venture to guess, in fact, I'd be willing to wager that the first action of the board will be to set that much higher. And the reason for that is that if you do need to then have additional funds, then you are going to be handicapped by that 3% increase each year. If it's on a low number, it's 40 cents. If it's on a bigger number, it could be quite a bit more. So you've got the responsible thing is for the board to set that much higher in that beginning year, because that's going to determine what you can increase your budget by each year. Now, the assumption they're using here is that the commitment to ITech is going to remain level and, in fact, increase. We don't know that because apparently we may be changing the mission, moving to a community college. That's based on a big number for technical education, and the state very well could trim that back, and therefore I really firmly believe, after looking at the budgets of the last few years concerning community colleges, that number is going to have to be substantially higher.
We've got 5 minutes here to
Thank you.
if you want.
I think this is a very, very important issue that we need to talk about as far as setting that initial budget. And I think that we in this panel, and I believe I've heard from many others, are willing to commit to that number that's put into the here. And we're asking that anyone that is interested in serving as that original trustees, we are committed to that number. Now let's talk a little bit more about that number, because I think it's really important to realize that there are government institutions, and College of Western Idaho is one of those institutions that actually started at $18.02 in 2011, and today, at 2015, I don't know what they are today, but in 2015, they went down to $16.42. So that number does go up and down, and it has gone down. For College of Western Idaho, it went from 1802 to 1642. And so will revenues go up because of increased property values and or additional new construction? Yes, I believe that there will be some modest increase in the actual amount that will happen. But the fact that 1337 is a good solid number, and we're willing to commit to that number, and the fact that, guess what, it can go down and has with College of Western Idaho.
Mark.
The problem is, Dean, is that you can't make a commitment for a board that's not yet appointed, and you don't have authority to bind them in the future. If you had wanted, Dean, and your proponents, to make that part of the tax, you could have written it into the question. Just like when we voted on a tax bond for 93, it told us the exact amount, the interest rate, what the payments were, how long it would last. None of that information is here. The best way to address this is to compare what's being paid in other counties. North Idaho College in Kootenai County, they don't pay $13, they pay $112 for every $100,000 in value. CSI pays $98, not $13.37. Now you talk about College of Western Idaho, you're right, theirs is only $16.42. The significant difference is you've got to recognize in a property tax there's two issues, appraisal value and the mill levy. The College of Western Idaho in Canyon County has $42 billion of appraised value on which to assess the tax. That's 7 times the $6 billion in Bonneville County. So if we apply those same numbers, our tax has to be 7 times the $13.37. That gets us, interestingly, to $118.
Would this like to respond to that?
Well, let me take that. Whatever CWI was doing, if that's their expense structure, they're a much larger institution than the Eastern Idaho Community College will be. And we know what the costs are here. We have an institution that's running, so we know exactly what that's going to be. We know how many additional instructors are going to be needed to be hired to do this. The real advantage we have is we have a campus. We have a campus with tremendous capacity to take on additional students with no cost of facilities. So again, we don't believe that you're going to need to take anything more than the 1371. Dean is right. We're all about expanding the pie. We believe the College of Eastern Idaho expands, businesses will expand, property values will rise, additional businesses will be formed or expanded, and this is really the secret to our success here at a very minimal cost.
We have about 30 seconds left. You're welcome to respond, or we can go to Todd's question.
Calla, interestingly enough, you're absolutely right as long as the mission of ITech doesn't change. The minute it changes, you've got more demand, you're going to have a bigger faculty, you're going to have, you're going to increase the number of students, you're going to increase the number of offerings there, and it costs a lot more money. So all things are not equal.
And it can't go up more than 3%. Once that initial budget's set, no matter what the mission changes, it can't go up more than 3%.
That's
And
not accurate.
That's our 5 minutes, so let's leave that there so we can move on and get all of the very important questions answered. Todd Coons.
Okay, thank you. Question for the pro panel, and probably specifically Senator Mortimer. Recently, in fact, you had a op-ed piece where you stated that community college would be a necessity, not a luxury. Can your panel explain the necessity to Eastern Idaho over a luxury?
Of course, I'll start with that. It was my op-ed, and I firmly believe in looking at the number of students. And if you look at what students we have in the state, and if we start saying, okay, we have students coming up through K through 12, and then there seems to be a real breakdown of students and what happens to them and their preparation for career and college and for their career. And in my opinion, K-12 is what K-8 used to be. And so students can't stop when they graduate from high school. They must go on in order to meet the demand in the workforce and in order to meet the educational needs of our workforce. Therefore, higher ed, be that career or junior college or an associate's degree or a four-year degree or an advanced degree, even above that, in my opinion, advanced education is a necessity.
Would the con side like to respond to that in any way?
Yeah, you know, as I look around, as I've done my research and my due diligence on this subject, I've gone and I've visited some of the institutions of higher education here, you know, in Idaho Falls and Bonneville County. I'm actually a graduate of ITech myself. I graduated with a certificate in radiation safety, and it was a great experience. But when I look at the different options that are available, and these options have been praised time and time again as being world-class, first-class, state-of-the-art educational opportunities. And we have a half a dozen of them right here close, from BYUI to ISU, to the ISU and U of I extensions, to Stevens Henniger College, to ITech, and now with technology, every single online college in the country is only a few mouse clicks away. And so to say that we need another college, look, I'm all for education myself. I come with the perspective of the non-traditional student. I've gone back, I've retooled and refit myself through pursuing my own education. But there's just, I think really the answer is to focus on ITech as a technical college and to work with the state legislature to expand those opportunities for people. I've talked to businesses that have a lot of jobs that they're ready to fill right now, but for whatever reason, ITech doesn't have the program. Let's get them the program.
Pro side?
That's, we're already too late, folks. We need nurses in Idaho Falls right now, 60 openings at the hospital. We need mechanics at every shop in town. We need welders. We're placing these people are coming out of there in the high 80% placement rate. There's 1 year wait, there's 18-month wait, there's 10-month wait to get in to ITech. Why? Because it's a community, or because it's not a community college, because it's a technical college. They don't have the staff to expand those programs. We could add agricultural programs, which would benefit all of us in this area. We could add a whole number of specific programs for the INL and other businesses that need those if we had a community college here. We're already 10 years behind. not only do we need it, we're way behind on when we needed it. I've been involved with iTech for 10 years in one form or another. We've recruited there, we've given funds there, we've given scholarships there. I know, I'm not in the peripheral, I'm in the know. That's how I ended up on this panel. Not because I'm not political, I'm not. I got on the panel because the need is real and it's immediate, and this is the best time to pass this thing right now.
Cal and I decided we can follow up on a few questions here too. So specifically the things that you were mentioning, Mario, those are, this side is saying that these educational opportunities are available elsewhere, that they're not needed here because you can get them some other places.
When you have to recruit a nurse from out of the area, what do? You pay transportation, you pay hiring bonuses. You don't get to know the person, you don't have as good an interview process. So when you've got to hire a nurse from out of the area, you can get good people, but why not have those jobs for the people who live here and work here? When we've got to hire a mechanic, I've got one who came from California and one who came from Seattle, Washington. It's a different type of recruiting when you can't recruit locally. And if we had the capacity to put the students in there, welders, same thing. Welders, right now, I've got a young man who works for me, he's going to the welding program, he's been on a 12-month wait to get into the welding program. And he'll have a job when he comes out, maybe even before he comes out. So that's what they're saying there's no need.
We should let you guys respond.
Yeah, the exact response is that the iTech is a necessity. We have the only technical school in the state. It places 100% of its welders. The hospital doesn't need brand new nurses. They need experienced nurses. Those are the ones that they're looking for. What we're looking at here is closing down. I'm quite familiar with what goes on in the hospital, and I know how many experienced nurses they bring in from other areas. But the point you're making, Mario, is that we need the tech. The question was, do we need a college? Yes. The evidence is that the technical college is not being utilized to its capacity. It only has 683 students.
It's at capacity.
The technical college has 686 students in buildings capacity of 4,000. But you know, it doesn't even have that many. It has 272 full-time students. It only has the same number of students attending as attend Falls Valley Elementary School because they have cut back on the programs that are needed by the technical and vocational program here in this community. It's being completely underutilized. Now you say we'll need more teachers. The teacher rate to full-time students at Votech is 1 to 4.
These aren't traditional students, folks. These are people who are re-educating. They're people who are changing jobs. There are people who are coming out of high school, don't know for sure where they want to go. This is the lost person in our educational system right now. These are the people who need to build up confidence and have a skill set and know that their investment of their dollars, their tuition dollars, are going to go towards a job, a real job, that they can come out and be employed. And it's year after year, month after month, time after time. This has been going on for 6 or 7 years, that the wait program for a mechanic to get an automotive technician certificate is 12 months, for as long as I can remember.
I have another point to make on that. One of the real advantages to community colleges is controlled by the local board of trustees. They can be very responsive. If business wants to create a training course, the community college can do that right now. With iTech, if they want to create a course, they'd have to go and get approval from the State Board of Education. It's much too long. They're just not able to respond quickly enough to local demands. A community college local board of trustees can respond. We've seen that happen. That's what makes CSI such a benefit to the Magic Valley. Certainly the benefit to North Idaho College and CWI to the Treasure Valley. Having a responsive institution is what you want. And I know, and we're thankful that CSI is here, but they have a very limited mission here. Their focus is on the Magic Valley. We need somebody that's focused on Eastern Idaho, and that's why we all support a community college here.
To make this fair, you guys would have the opportunity to respond, or we can go to Carol's question.
I just want to ask one question, Park. You're aware that for the first year, the board will not be locally selected. It will be appointed and run by the State Department of Education. Isn't that correct?
No, it's going to be State Board of Education, not the Department of Education. State Board of Education.
It won't be from Bonneville County.
Yes,
we won't get to elect them.
They will all be residents of Bonneville County appointed initially, but then they'll be elected. And as I say, I think what Dean was saying is we would encourage anybody that runs for that position to make a statement that they will abide by the $13 or the 15 mil rate, and we would recommend that the State Board of Education pay attention to that when they appoint people.
I just wish the people who are saying that it won't work because they don't trust their neighbors, they don't trust their fellow business owners, they don't trust the people of Bonneville County, step up, get on the board. Step up and make sure it stays at $15 mill rate. I would invite that to any of you. I've been involved for 10 years, haven't seen you at a graduation, haven't seen you at a recruiting, haven't seen you raising money, haven't seen you at a fundraising event. Not one of you. But when this comes up and people have been working hard on it, present the facts, it's easy to start with an undercurrent and undertone that's very negative, and it's insulting to the people who are going to school there now and want to go to school there in the future, and it's insulting to me.
Shall we move on to the next question? Carol Honus.
Todd has a follow-up and has asked for my
go ahead.
question.
Just to clarify, I'm hearing the 5 people appointed. I've heard state appointed, not from Bonneville County. I've heard 5 appointed, yes, from Bonneville County. I think for our listeners, our viewers, can we clear that up?
Yes, they will all be residents of Bonneville County appointed by the State Board of Education. They will ask for names, volunteer names, and they will pick from that group, I would think.
So they have to be from Bonneville County, but yet...
They do have to be.
They have to be from Bonneville
For the
County.
1 year.
Yeah. But from your side, they will be appointed by the state from Bonneville County.
That's correct.
Then they'll run after that.
Okay.
Larry, did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to add to that. The taxing district would be divided into 5 zones, similar to a school district, and there'd be one person that would represent each zone. Initially appointed by the State Board of Education until November of 18, the next general election, and then they would be, all 5 seats would be up for election, and they would be elected for staggered terms at that point. Okay. But just let me say real quick, Mario, spoke about, trust. Well, when I read through the panel report, and I've gone through it multiple times, and I've looked at the ballot language, and I've asked myself, well, why don't they seem to trust the people of Bonneville County enough to tell them what they're really doing? The petitions that were circulated to gather signatures don't say anything about taxes or a tax district. Looking at that petition language, you might think that all they were doing was changing the sign on ITech. Now, we learn, and it's nowhere, the tax implications are nowhere in the panel report, that there's a potential tax liability of up to $7.5 million to the county the first year. There's nothing in the panel report about the board being appointed, and I got to tell you, that flat county assessment, look, I've been on the Idaho Falls City Council. I don't know everything, but I know one thing, is that these numbers don't stay flat. They go up every year. CSI in 2010 in millions of dollars, 4.7 to 4.9 in 2011 to 5.1 to 5.3. CWI 5.4 to 5.7 to 5.9 million. North Idaho College 12.9 million to 13.3 million, and so on and so on. I mean, this is, to me, I just wish they trusted us enough to just be fully transparent and tell us the whole truth.
It's in the report.
Because I want to follow up on Todd's question here, because I want to make sure we understand this. So we're saying that after the first year that the people on this board are elected in these different zones.
They'd be elected at the next general election.
Okay.
That would be November of 2018.
Okay. So back to Mark's point, you were saying that once you do a taxing district, you can't vote it out again. It's there forever. But you could vote for the people who
who run it, and if they're raising the prices too much, then they could be voted out and they could get someone who has lower expectations.
That's correct. We can vote out those who have already set the base level, but that first base level is the most important thing that'll be done by any board of trustees that serves with this community college district, because they will set the baseline amount of the tax, and the 3% will just increase above that. That's where the 40 cents comes from. If the tax were only $13, the increase would be 40 cents. No. It'll be much, much more than that. The recent tax increases for the other counties are pushing right up against the 3%. Idaho Falls went up 3%. The state of Idaho went up 5.4% just this last year. We're not anticipating that anything lower than the maximum tax will be charged.
Let me make it clear for the audience to understand this. The budget, $13, or the base tax rate for the average homeowner of $13.37 is based on $15 per 100,000 of taxable property in Idaho Falls in Bonneville County. So that is based on the budget, including increases, including increased teachers, including increased students, including increased, all of that was taken into the panel report. I've analyzed the panel report, and unfortunately, as I said in my opening statement, some people have problems reading financial statements. I don't. So before I got on board here, I studied that report. Before I agreed to even support this program, I studied it in depth. So using reasonable assumptions, using common accounting, all of that is taken into account. So for $15 per 100,000, it comes to $13.37 for the average homeowner in Bonneville County. That's what's needed. That's what's needed, including the growth and the transition. Period. That's a fact. That's what's needed. Now, this hypothetical, oh, they're going to come in and charge $100. Hooey. It's hooey. Trust me.
Well,
I'd like to respond to that if I could.
What do you think, Alice? I mean,
We're way over the 5 minutes.
Yeah,
let's let poor
we're
Carol
trying to
ask
get
a
some-
question.
yeah. And then we can come back to some of this.
I do think it's really important because that's one of the biggest issues, is people are most concerned about how much it's going to raise. But as you said in your opening statement, Mark, I believe, I think, whatever, that's what you're saying also. I think it'll be more than 3% when that board gets elected, but you don't know that for sure. So my question would be, everybody, or it seems like everybody that's anybody, and by that I mean INL, Doug Sayer at Premier, who needs welders all the time, every school in Idaho, top business people, top bankers, top lawyers, the list of who is supporting this is like this, and then we have you three. Why? Who are you representing?
Most unfair.
Who are the people that you're representing?
That question is most unfair, Carol. You're aware who we're here for. You're aware that I'm chairman of the Bonneville County Republican Central Committee. You're aware of the status of these other gentlemen here. You know we're representing a large group.
Do you have any names of like big businesses or power people that agree with you?
No, because almost every government individual, every elected official favors other government entities. They believe in the growth of government. That's why every mayor, every city councilman, they all like it. Taxes are extremely addictive. As soon as you begin to collect and spend other people's money, it gets to be very addictive to be able to force charity on others. See, one of the things we're being told is that we need to be our brother's keeper, that we need to look out for others around us. Charity, in my mind, is when I have something extra and I want to give within my ability to afford, then I'm blessed by God for being charitable, and the people that I give to are blessed because I gave. Socialism is when the government forces you to pay your tax. Then they give it, Carol.
Wait, let him finish.
Then they give it to the person they want, who's not grateful to you because they didn't get it from you. They get it from the government. And then if you don't want to pay it, they're going to sell your house. And yes, they do. In Bonneville County, you don't pay your property tax, they'll sell your house.
If you'd like to respond.
When I look for charity, the first place I look is at the end of my own arm. And most of the people with our values in Eastern Idaho look there too. They look at the end of their own hand. They want to go to school. They want to become welders. They want to become nurses. They want to see if they can try out the college experience and get an associate's degree or a certificate that can help them. These people aren't looking for a handout. They're looking for an opportunity to be able to stay home, save some money, have reasonable education. You go out there, and again, that's the benefit I have over the other panel members. I've been in the classrooms. I've talked to the students. I've been to the graduations. I've been at the fundraisers. And I've talked to the students. I know them. I know a lot of them. And they're not looking for a handout. They want to pay tuition. They want to pay tuition, and they want to go to school here locally. They're not looking for a handout.
Do you want to respond, or should we move on to the next question?
Just Mario, every time Mario talks about it, he talks about the welders and the nurses. They're already going to iTech. They're not involved
They can't get in.
this program.
They can't get in.
That's because there's not sufficient programs being taught.
Exactly.
There are empty classrooms.
Exactly.
We agree on something.
Okay, anything else to follow up on, Carol?
You know, just for the record, I do like City Club's style better of not applauding, because I just think that's a better and more civil and nice way to do it. So that's just for me on the record there. How about this, guys? How about on the pro side, if we go with the community college, do we lose one single thing from iTech? Will something, okay, so the kids are waiting.
The name.
Every single class will still be there that we love.
In fact, it'll expand.
And it will expand.
Yeah.
Could you explain to the audience why some of the, what are the advantages then, you know, that we need with all these other institutions around that we can get educated from, and as Larry said, on the internet, so many places to go. Why, again, do we keep exactly what we have that we love and expand it? Why do we need to do this? And I don't care if it's $120 a year. You know, whatever the dollar, why do we need to do it?
Well, the world is significantly different than it was 5 years ago. In fact, ever since the Great Recession, when we had a tremendous shrinkage of business. The way business responded to that is they have taken most of the jobs that were okay for a high school graduate and automated them. That's going to continue. So from 2009 to 2013, the number of job postings that required a certificate or an associate's degree tripled. And those are going to continue to go up. So essentially, business is saying we need a more educated worker. When I talk to businesses, just the numbers you've talked about, that's what they say, is it's not just the technical skills, it's also the skills of being able to express yourself well, to think logically, those kinds of things that a community college can do. There's a lot of kids in our area, students in our area, that just don't feel like they're ready for a four-year institution. That's intimidating to them. Not only the cost, but the cost is prohibitive for most of them, because not only do they have to move or commute, they have to pay $3.48 a credit hour, as opposed to $125 a credit hour, which is at a community college.
Hang on then. So is that true of every community college in Idaho? The community college credit is a 125?
Yes. No.
Is that set?
Each district, each community college can set their own tuition as it's approved by the board. And it is different for every community college has a different tuition. And the report itself is estimated and done at $120 a credit hour.
So just to
But the
ISU, English
ISU
101 at
345,
ISU, community college.
348, community college in Eastern Idaho estimating at $120. Huge difference, huge cost difference. Our students need this cost alternative. They need the availability of education at a reduced cost.
And just to speak to the
Very quickly, so we can let the other side respond.
to the online part of it. Online it's wonderful. I'm really pleased that it's out there. But for a student that is not sure that they could do college work yet, they need a face-to-face experience. They're just not set up to do an online kind of experience. Those that do, there's a tremendous dropout rate here. So the importance is to have those students in an environment that's nurturing, that is excellent at doing this kind of remediation at entry-level work, and that's what the community college does.
Let's throw it to you guys.
So this is what I'm talking about. When we hear the benefits of a community college and how inexpensive the credits are, it just goes one way. There's only a comparison with more expensive alternatives. And again, we're not getting the full story. They talk about trust, but they don't trust us enough to tell us the whole truth, that there's actually good, less expensive alternatives to a community college. For example, for the LDS community, there's the Pathway program. Credits are approximately half of what a community college credits are. For kids in high school and junior high, the state of Idaho has a dual credit program. It's called Fast Forward. I've talked to a couple of representatives from the different colleges. It's a fantastic program. Idaho taxpayers are already committed to paying up to $4,125 for every public school student in the state of Idaho to take dual credit classes. Now, every public school student in the state of Idaho can graduate with an associate's degree at the same time they graduate from high school. No new tax district needed. We're already paying for it. And there's other options as well. A lot of employers have tuition reimbursement programs. The Idaho National Lab has a tuition reimbursement program. I've participated in that myself, taking classes at the extension. And there's also things, I don't know if anybody's heard of these things, but there's there's grants. There's Pell grants, there's scholarships. And so there are a lot of good alternatives. And here's something, my brother is a good example of this. He worked his way through college. During the summer, he got a thing, I'm not sure, I think it's called a job. He got a job during the summer, and he went out and he worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and he worked his way through college.
Okay, I didn't even have to ring the bells.
Yeah.
Can we move on to Neil?
Neil's been sitting here 45 minutes and hasn't said a word. He's chomping at the bit there.
I didn't think I was going to get a chance, so yeah. Yeah, my question is for the proponents of the community college. Trust, I think, is a very important issue, and we live in a time when we have a crisis of trust between voters and citizens and their government. And so when you ask the voters on May 16th, you're asking them for their trust. And the value that has been put out, and again, this is a ballpark, it's $13 or so per year for the basic average homeowner. And I can tell you one of the common strains that I've heard from people who've emailed us, called in, we've had some texts about this, is that they feel like it may be a teaser amount, that it might be a bait and switch, that this amount is very modest. Most people would say, yeah, $1 a month, sure, I would pay that for a community college, and I think most people would. So I guess my question for you tonight is a couple of parts, and Mark Fuller referenced this earlier. Why didn't you include that in the question, an up to a certain amount clause in the question for voters on May 16th? And the question is, why is this appointed board that the state board will put forward be bound by the promises you're making in your proposal to create a community college?
That's a multi-part question, Neil. So
Sure.
let me
minute,
take a shot at it, and then I'll defer to my compatriots here. So first, it's based on real numbers. And when we put our study online, so we've asked for input for 3 years. So I believe a famous person once said, trust but verify. That's what I did. They came to me and said, hey, this is what it's going to be. I said, that sounds really low. Let me have a look. Let me have a look at the financial statements. Let me have a look at the study. And I went through there, and it was all reasonable assumptions. It was all accurate accounting. So there was no pie in the sky there. That's what I liked, and that's why I agreed to get involved with this.
I guess my follow-up is, then why not put that in the question before the voters?
The question, as my understanding is that's what the state requires us to put in the question. I don't think we had any say on what the question said or didn't say.
Okay, so you're statutorily prohibited from putting an amount in that.
I don't know if you are or not. I don't think we had any say on what the question said.
Senator, do you know the answer to that?
No, I don't know the answer. I have heard just what Mario indicated, is that the question, the way it was framed, was dictated somewhat by those that were involved with it and statute, and their interpretation of the statute. So I can't address it any more than that. I can address, though, I think the trust issue, and I think that you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, there is a lack of trust, particularly on a national level, state level. Representative Lurcher and I see that, and it's unfortunate. But I think the thing that's important about this specific issue is that this is a local issue. This is like a school board or a board of trustees. This is almost as close to the people as you can get. And I believe that that trust is still there for those local people. At least I hope it is. When we lose that, we're out.
Can I respond?
Yes, you have your three minutes here.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah, sorry.
The limit could have been included in the language. This statute that's the ballot's based on was passed in 1963. So it's been in place for over 50 years. This is an old sticks and bricks type proposal. The statute now regarding most ballot questions requires that we be told that it's a tax, that we be told the amount, the interest rate, how much the payment is. But they went back and forth, those who were the proponents, perhaps not these three, but those who've been organizing this for some years, went back and forth with the taxing department of Bonneville County to pare the language down as low as possible. It was submitted to the Secretary of State's office. It was submitted to the Attorney General's office to be certain that it was as simple as could possibly be done without including the word tax. The issue is, why wasn't it on the ballot? And more importantly, why wasn't this scheduled so that we could be electing the trustees at the same time? That could have been done so that we could question the trustees. Then we wouldn't need the state involved. There wouldn't need to be a year of state-appointed trustees. We could have done it all at once if you'd have just trusted us, but you don't, and now you ask our trust.
I ask you guys to come forward with people who want to hold it to that minimum amount. I'm happy to work with you on that. I'm asking you to bring some positive energy and work into this and come forward with some trustees who you feel would do a good job and would keep the tax at a minimum.
But the way it's been placed on the ballot makes that impossible for us to do.
No.
Can I just follow up on one thing here, because this hasn't come up for the con side here. You talked to Larry, did your due diligence and then looked at things, and Mark, you talked about how there may be, they could charge a whole lot more. Is there any reason that you have, looking at these numbers, that you have any reason to feel that these are not correct, what these folks have looked at? Tom?
Go ahead. Can I take a stab at that, Jay? I think what you have to do is, if you're looking at a community college taxing district in Idaho Falls, in Bonneville County, what you need to do is you need to look at that college district which we would be most like, and that is the College of Southern Idaho. Now, because they're similar to our evaluation, and so you can expect more of that kind of a levy to be set, rather than basing it on strictly numbers that look like CWI. Isn't that interesting? Well, CWI has a valuation, taxable valuation of 7 times what we do in Bonneville County. And what the problem with that is that we now are faced with also what's the legislature going to do with those budgets in the future. You've got to assume that that's all going to remain constant or increasing when that's not the commitment they've made to other community colleges. Is the legislature going to equalize this in some fashion so that the community is making the same kind of effort that the state is making, that other community college districts are making? So you have to look at that issue. Now, if that looks like a naysayer, I'm sorry, but you have to compare us to what we're most like, and that happens to be the College of Southern Idaho. That's a similar valuation base, and so and the commitment from the community has to be bigger if the state's going to keep up its commitment as well.
Park Price is chomping at the bit there to respond.
Well, I think the big difference, Butcher, is that CSI, they had to create a campus. So most of that went for buildings. We are fortunate because we have a facility. That's the whole secret to this. This is a huge benefit. And as we've all agreed, this is a very underutilized facility. And this is a great way at a reasonable cost to the taxpayer to utilize a facility we already have that just is not there. We're not trying to build nothing in here. There's no buildings in here at all. There's no community center. There's no gymnasium. There's none of that is in this. Now, they have those at CSI. I understand why they have that kind of evaluation, because they've got a lot more there, but we are not proposing that. We're proposing just to use an existing facility and use this and get the students to train the students so we can have them here to hire.
But Park, wouldn't you agree that CSI's campus is probably paid for now, and so you can't use that as a basis for determining why their costs might be higher?
The reason that assessment was there to begin with was as they were building buildings. I don't know what their need is now, but that's how that got to that point. We're not starting at that point at all, because we don't.
It's been around for a very long time, has it not? And so those buildings are probably all paid for, and so this is just strictly their operating budget. Interestingly enough, I think that the budget you see here for community colleges is just the operating side, not for capital expenditures.
Let me just point out, on page 26 of your study, you'll notice the reports that you say you can read, Mr. Hernandez, identify infrastructure expenses. In year one, $2 million. In year two, $800,000. Over the 6 years, your budget provides for $8.8 million in infrastructure, yet you say we're taking the advantage of a campus already constructed. In addition, I'd like you to explain, the campus doesn't belong to you, gentlemen. It belongs to the state of Idaho. You don't have the ability to just take it over and change the name. There's a long process, and the state might not decide to give you that school.
Well, let me talk to your first 2 points there. People who own buildings, commercial real estates, understand there's maintenance, there's care, there's repair, things wear out, they break down. You better plan for those buildings, or you're gonna have a shambles out there. So if you're not putting some in there for your buildings and maintenance, repair, and upkeep, you're gonna have nothing. So that was one of the things I liked about the budget, is I understand there's 62 acres out there with multiple buildings that need to be cared for and kept modern and kept in good order if students want to attend there. So I did read the budget. I understand how it works.
Let me address the buildings and the legislative process. The legislature has expressed a commitment to a community college in Eastern Idaho, a $5 million commitment. And that's a significant commitment. And and the state board has expressed a commitment to a community college in Eastern Idaho. That commitment, I believe, will go through to the buildings and everything in ITech. They have expressed a commitment to a college in Eastern Idaho.
Can you keep it really short so we can get to our next question?
Yes, just that the line item in the financial estimates is for, it's not for maintenance of buildings and repairing roofs, it's for annual one-time expenditures for infrastructure, 8.8 million, over 6 years. Again, you just come away with the feeling that, there's something that they're not telling us. And if they really wanted us to make the decision, free of any outside influences, then why did the governor and the legislator put their finger on the scale and allocate $5 million? That's the oldest political trick in the book. Bait you with an upfront cash, piece of cash, and then you're on the hook for everything going forward.
So you're suggesting that they're actually thinking of building more buildings because that's what the line says. They're saying they're not.
Well, Jay, that's a good question. We don't know what this is for.
Well, let's let him answer.
So there are no buildings in this one-time expenditures. We looked at all of that. There are monies for establishing, because there are facilities there, but they're going to need some labs in there. There's going to need some technology that needs to be expanded to all these buildings. So that's what the bulk of this is, to turn these buildings into the kinds of classrooms that they're going to need for a community college. That's what that's about. As far as the state and we in this region understand that real value is an educated workforce. That's what's so important here. Right now what's happening is because they can't get local education opportunities, they leave. They go someplace else. Those that do go on, but they don't come back. We want to educate them here so that we'll have an educated workforce. As I'm talking to companies who are interested in locating here through Ready, the number one reason why they don't locate here is the lack of an educated workforce. We're being held up on that.
Or if I could just speak to that real quick, because I'm an example of what you're talking about. I went to iTech, and there's plenty of educational opportunities here already, and we can expand iTech without creating a whole nother layer of taxation. But let me just speak to the point that you made about leaving and leaving the area. A lot of times I work out of state, but my residence is in Idaho. My car is licensed in Idaho. I'm registered to vote in Idaho. What does that mean? That means that every year, even though I may work out of state, I still pay thousands of dollars in Idaho state taxes because I love Idaho and I don't want to be a permanent resident of any other state, even though my work does require me to, to work out of state. But again, you talk about what this line item means now, and I'm glad that you're finally telling us a week before the election. This is something that I would think should have been, this explanation that you just gave, in the panel report to begin with. Again, we're just not getting the full story, and it just creates that climate of distrust.
I think we've really passed our 5 minutes on this question. If everyone's okay, can we move on? All right, Devin Bodkin.
This is for the con table. I just want to clarify here, because it seems to be that there's some mixed messages coming from Bonneville County Republicans. Is this something that you guys are opposing for good, or is this something that you can see as being feasible in the future?
This vote has already been placed before Bonneville County about 20 years ago, and it was soundly defeated. This is not an issue that we want to be addressed again. I'm hoping that the vote is such that the proponents recognize once and for all that this is not something to be done in Bonneville County. We don't need this taxing district because we have so many other educational opportunities available in this area. A necessity would be if we don't build this, there's no place else to go to school. That's just not the case. There are multiple other affordable options for our students.
Darren?
Can we confirm, is that how both of you feel as well? That this is something that's no good at all ever?
I certainly wouldn't say that necessarily, but what you have to understand is that, and I guess my role here tonight is to explain to you that, $13 isn't going to break anybody, but $100 might. And we've got a lot of people living on the edge all of the time. The unfortunate thing is that tax bills get translated into your mortgage payment. And so people don't necessarily notice it. Their house payment goes up and they say, oh, that rotten bank. And so they don't associate that necessarily with an increase in taxes. Is it something that we should be doing in this community? Maybe it is, but not under these circumstances, because there are still some unknowns, and I think the information that has been put forward here is a little bit deceptive in that we are compared on two different fronts with the budgetary requirements rather than what we're most like.
I know you want to respond to this quickly, though. Under what circumstances, when we're talking about numbers, right? Because we know the tax base has tripled since this saw the ballots, what was it, in the early 90s? The tax base is a lot bigger. Under what circumstances would it be right, Representative Lorcher? What would need to happen from your perspective?
From my perspective, I'd like to see more than just Bonneville County involved in this taxing district. I think it's unfortunate that it's just on Bonneville County. I think that times certainly will change that there may be a need for more college. It's a little bit difficult to figure that out right now because there are opportunities close by. And before you think I'm some kind of an ogre, my kids have had to go out of town to attend college. And so I think I come from that perspective where there is an opportunity at some point in time, but I think these numbers are not sufficient to convince me.
All right, we should let you guys respond.
Mr. Fuller and Mr. Lyon do not represent all the Republicans in this county. Let me guarantee you that for sure. The Republican women have voted unanimously for the community college. I have many, many Republican friends who are livid about them putting Republican tag on this. My fellow co-panelist, Dean Mortimer, is a good conservative Republican who serves his community well. So I would like to go on the record for many, many Republicans, and even in their own committee, their own board, it was not a unanimous vote against. There were plenty of people who were for it. So don't be mistaken or fooled that this is Republican stance on this. It is not.
Devin, did we get your question answered?
Yeah.
Great. Todd Coons.
Thank you. Most of the discussion has been on campus, forward. Let's go day one on campus, backward. Let's go to the high school level. What would and I guess this is a both side question. What would a community college provide a high school student, and I'll pick one in Bonneville County that no one attends yet, so it's fair, Thunder Ridge, that a ITech can't provide today? And more specifically, I'm not sure that ITech can offer dual credit classes. Can it?
Absolutely. Let me respond to that. I had a son who graduated from Hillcrest. He graduated with, because of dual credits, he graduated with 29 college credits when he graduated from high school. Some of those credits he received from ITech. A teacher came over and taught, and they transferred freely to Utah State College. All of those same opportunities are available right now, and their story that dual credits are only available with a community college is just not accurate.
I don't know that I have heard that dual credits transfer only to a community college. Let me just talk about dual and concurrent enrollment, because that's a real significant part in the education system in our state. We recognize the importance of dual and concurrent enrollment, those students being able to take those college courses when they're in high school. And we've been working on that for many, many years. And we're just starting to get momentum behind concurrent and dual enrollment. And we are encouraging that. And so we want that to happen. Our community colleges are taking the most active role in those concurrent and dual enrollments. But a community college going forward, ITech going forward, guess what? That's for a lot of those students. There's a majority still, a significant majority of the students that are not taking concurrent and dual enrollment. Those students that graduate with an associate's degree, which I commend your son for doing that. That's a tremendous challenge. It's fantastic. Most likely, though, he's not going to go for that certificate or the 2-year degree. He's going to go on for a 4-year or whatever. He's that kind of student. But a community college in Eastern Idaho will be for those students that maybe only take one class, one concurrent or dual enrollment, or don't take any, which the majority of the students still do not take any. That community college mission is very, very important for all of the students.
Let me just respond. My son graduated in 2000. This program's been in place for nearly 20 years.
Todd,
it's not new.
Yeah. Did you get your question answered over on this side?
Yes, I believe so. I'll turn it over to Carol.
Just a quick follow-up to that. I'm under the impression from previous debates or presentations that they do not transfer to other colleges as easily from a VOTEC as compared to a community college, a comprehensive community college. Can anybody correct me on that, or?
I can speak to that.
Sure.
I can speak to that. Being a graduate of ITech myself, I can tell you that my credits from ITech have transferred into a bachelor's program at ISU, into an associate's program at Columbia Southern University, and into a bachelor's program.
Is that
at
pretty
Columbia.
is that pretty recent?
Well, in the bachelor's program at ISU was probably about 10 years ago, and the associate's program was about 5 years ago, and the bachelor's program at Columbia Southern, you know, was within the last year. So, but I did talk to the ISU extension about the issue of credit transfer. Personally, I never had any problem, you know, with it. But I asked her about it, and she said, well, not all credits transfer. But again, it seems like the other side, their only answer is higher taxes, a bigger bureaucracy, more government employees, and our position is that whatever these problems are, if there are problems, they can be solved without expanding the power and scope and size of government. So anyway, I asked the ISU about it, and they said, well, what you could do, she said, they may not transfer into every program, but you could get a bachelor's degree, you could get what's called a BAT, a Bachelor's of Technology degree, and they would transfer into that. And I said, well, what's the trade-off then? And she said, well, if you wanted to be a college professor, a Bachelor's of Technology probably wouldn't be, you know, the direction that you'd want to go. So, but again, it's all about the individual. It's about their choice. When people talk about, oh, we want to keep the money here, we want to, well, just let people be who they are. Let them go where they want to go and choose their own path. I work with all kinds of tradesmen, and they're happy the way they are.
Okay, 2 minutes over here.
So the answer to that is that the number of dual credits are very limited that can transfer to ITech. They've got to be related to a technical program. Those that are, they can translate. But if you're a student, a high school student, you're taking dual concurrent classes or AP classes, whatever, they may not transfer to a technical school because they're not related to a program they've got there. So the only way to make that work for the vast majority of students here would be to have them be able to be transferred at a full comprehensive community college. The number of classes that will be available to students here when the community college is here is tremendously increased. In fact, in Bannock County, where they do have a college, kids take a dual credit courses at 8 times the rate they do up here. So it's just, we just need the opportunity for these kids to take advantage of dual credits.
Neil, we're going to let you ask the last question that's coming from the panel tonight, and then we'll let both sides ask each other a question.
Okay.
But Tom, did you have something real quick?
Oh, I apologize. I didn't see your hand, Representative.
Just very briefly. In my legislative district down in a little town called Dayton, which is just 5 miles from Preston, they started in dual enrollment several years ago. Couldn't even find a college in Idaho that would give them what they needed. They went to Utah State. It's the best buy in higher education that there is, having dual enrollment for high school kids. Absolutely. Gives them something to do in their senior year, which for a lot of kids is a total waste. And so little place like that has a very high percentage of their students now that are graduating with associate's degrees.
Good for them.
Dayton was a great example. I mean, they truly were one of the first.
The leader.
Yep.
A little small town in my legislative district. Great success story.
And they don't have a community college.
Wonderful. Thank you. Neil Larson, our final question from the panel.
All right, I pressed the proponents with my earlier question. I want to press those who are against the community college. You make the contention that this is not needed, that all of the educational opportunities that we need in this region are already there. If that's true, why are some of the area's leading employers and the highest level taxpayers telling us this is needed? And if your contention is that if ISU and BYU Idaho and the University of Idaho campus that we have in Idaho Falls can fill that need, why isn't that their story?
Well, You know, it's a good question, but I think it's in the, in the nature of the game that's being played. This is a political game. This is politics.
This is about education.
Look, it's the nature of the beast. You've got to understand what we're really doing here. Sure, Obamacare was a huge tax increase disguised as health care. And so whenever government wants to do something, they always want to put a front out there that it's got some, you know, wonderful cause behind it. But let me just say this.
Is this on the same topic?
Well,
Because we'll have a chance for one last question between the two.
So we've got to understand that that what we're doing is we're creating a tax district that has the power to take our money by force. You know, what they're thinking, you know, I feel like you're kind of asking me to, you know, maybe read minds. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process is behind it. But what I do know is that we're asking to trust the government. That, oh, we promise, even though we could take $7.5 million, we'll only take less than $1 million. Well, I would say if you think you can trust the government, ask Red Cloud, ask Sitting Bull, ask Chief Joseph if you can trust them.
Did that answer your question, Neil? Okay, well, we'll go ahead.
We'll let you all respond to that.
It's interesting. It's interesting. The whole thing with this community college initiative. The people who've been working on it for a whole number of years, the people who are the ones who did the work, are now the ones who are under fire about it. And this isn't a political issue. This is a community issue. This is a community issue. They're trying to make it a political issue. It is not a political issue. It's a community issue. And that's what everyone has to remember. This is about our community, Bonneville County, Idaho Falls. Keep those kids here, give them an option to come here. It's needed. If it wasn't needed, CSI wouldn't be here, Idaho State wouldn't be here, University of Idaho wouldn't be here. If it wasn't needed, we wouldn't have all those options. People are crying for it. ITech wouldn't be here if it wasn't needed. It's needed, and and we're 10 years behind.
And Mario makes the point, the reason why it's not necessity is because we've got so many other options here.
All right, we're running out of time quickly, and we've promised both sides they could ask the other side a question. Did we decide who gets to ask first? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Should we flip a coin?
Anyone have a coin? No, who responded last year? You responded last? I did. So then it would probably be fair to have you guys have the next turn to ask them a question.
I'll ask the question. We now know that we are voting on the creation of a taxing district with authority to tax up to $7.5 million each year. You have not contested that. Yet the ballot question asks the voters to organize a community college district without informing the voters that a taxing district is required. Given that the ballot question is false, misleading, and deceptive to the voters, why should they trust anything else you say?
Two minutes?
Let me, I'm going to read you from our study panel report. It says, given the combination of existing technical college campus with capacity for future enrollments, the demonstrated need for an affordable tuition option for students, a modest investment needed from the state and property owners, and the economic benefit that will result leads the Community College Study Panel to unanimously recommend the expansions of ITech to a comprehensive community college. This will be accomplished through a ballot initiative to establish a community college taxing district. So we knew right off the bat, and it was in here, that there was going to be the need for an investment from the property owners of Bonneville County.
But the question is, why isn't it on the ballot?
It's on
And
the
why
ballot.
wasn't it on the petitions?
It's on the ballot.
It's not, sir. It's not.
To establish a taxing district?
No.
No words are on there like that, Park. I'm sorry. You'll have to read the ballot question.
Well, I read it. I've already voted. I've read it. First, the intelligence of the voters. I mean, come on. When you have to understand, I guess, what the fear factor and the misinformation factor is in this. Not only has the group not represented the Republican Party, the women obviously unanimously against, but the intelligence of the voters is being questioned here. We know there's a tax district. We know the tax is fair. Get your friends and neighbors out and vote yes for this thing on May 16th. Let's get it done. Let's get it over with. I need to go back to work.
Okay, and a question.
And then you have a question for the other side?
The reasons for are so overwhelming, I have no question.
Okay. Well, do you want 2 minutes to talk about whatever you want to talk about?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Who would like to be the spokesperson for the non-question?
Let me address an issue that's not been discussed at all here, and that's the go-on rate. They've made a big deal about the fact that Bonneville County specifically and Eastern Idaho has a low go-on rate. The governor would like 60% of high school graduates to be within college within the first year. And Bonneville County and Eastern Idaho don't keep up with that. And the reason why they don't is because in 2012, the LDS Church reduced the age of its missionaries so that missionaries can now go directly out of high school into the mission field. Okay, what that means is that if you do that, you're counted as not having gone on to college. I have 4 sons. 3 of them have graduate degrees, and 1 is about to enter dental school. All of them, according to the governor's schedule, did not matriculate from high school to college. They didn't cover the go-on, they didn't qualify under the go-on rate. There's some really interesting articles written, including by our own panelist here. They just don't care what the culture is in Eastern Idaho. They want to apply an Ada County standard, and that's what's going to happen when we have an Ada County appointed board.
We have like 3 more minutes. Did you have a clarifying question?
The state does emphasize the 1-year 60% go-on rate when many East Idaho students are on missions. However, the State Board of Education does have data up to, I think it's 5 or 6 years out, so that you can see what the go-on rates are doing after the mission.
All right.
I should clarify that.
But they just don't count.
All right. Well, I don't know, Devin, do you feel like we've covered that sufficiently? All right. Well, I think for Jay and I both, we want to thank everybody on the panel as well as our media representatives for being here tonight. Thank you to the crowd. Obviously, you're a very opinionated bunch, and we appreciate you being here. You'll be able to see this broadcast. It will continue to run on channel 8.4.
And Cable 1, channel 30.
So you can see it multiple times before the vote on May 16th, but certainly a very important issue for the residents of Bonneville County.
And I think it's 7 o'clock in the evening for the next week or so. It'll rerun beginning at 7 p.m.
And the link will be available on KIDnewsRadio.com as well as the TV station's websites and Facebook as well. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.